Since the release of Breath of the Wild, and especially with Tears of the Kingdom, we've seen a rift in the Zelda fanbase. There are those such as me that grew up on the dungeon formula that was created in 1992 with A Link to the Past. We love the more direct storytelling approach and exploring the world, but with the more linear path. Most importantly, however, was that we were always eager to see that next dungeon. Each Zelda title I played felt like a race to the next one, and that's not a negative. I was always excited to explore these areas and be immersed within a new atmosphere that carries its own theme, unique enemies, environmental specific puzzles, the latest item, and a boss. In 2017, however, this structure was discarded. In its place was the non-linear, open world title, Breath of the Wild. This is the game that Miyamoto envisioned all the way back in 1986 with the original Legend of Zelda, a living digital world that encourages you to make your own decisions, allowing for all experiences to be dissimilar, and in his own words, a miniature garden that you can put inside your drawer. To understand this concept better, I highly recommend watching this video by Good Blood. To summarize my best, however, the intention of the Zelda franchise has always been about the world of Hyrule, and our participation with it. When speaking on Breath of the Wild in 2017, he even says that we also wanted to make a game where after someone is done playing, their own experience in that game is what the story is. With his sequel in Tears of the Kingdom, we got more of the same, but with new abilities, more enemies, additional towns, and an even larger world. However, despite my enjoyment and my appreciation of this new direction, I was still left longing for that dungeon formula that I grew up loving. Well, we can kind of see a return to this with Echoes of Wisdom. The criticism that I see about Tears of the Kingdom is valid. For the most part, the world is incredibly familiar except for the addition of a few new towns. The Sky Islands, although brand new, become repetitive and are pretty bland in design. I would really only explore the sky as a means to prepare for the depths, which in my opinion was even less exciting in its design. Neither area carried landmarks that will remain memorable outside of maybe the game's opening segment. We did, however, receive a new boss variant in the Flux Constructs, and there was also a dungeon, if you want to call it that, in the depths with the Construct Factory. Caves were added to the overworld, but again did not offer too much variation. I could go on with my critique on Tears of the Kingdom, but that's not what this video is about, and I actually still enjoyed the game as a whole, as many others seem to have lost their fondness for Tears of the Kingdom with time. Echoes of Wisdom, however, addresses many of the gripes that people have with Tears of the Kingdom, with the most obvious being the return of classic dungeons. I genuinely went into this game with no knowledge outside of understanding that I would play as Zelda, and that traditional sword combat would not be at the forefront of the gameplay. Therefore, I was pleasantly surprised when I stepped into the game's first dungeon, the Soothorn Ruins. This dungeon, as well as the following ones, plays similar to what we're used to. First, and one of the most important aspects, is a unique dungeon theme. We're met with the return of locked doors, dungeon enemies, and an actual standalone boss at the end. However, due to the gameplay structure, there's no technical dungeon item that you'll find. In its place is an echo. So I found myself always utilizing specific echoes for given dungeons, which in a sense are your new dungeon items. You just have significantly more variety, as well as additional freedom and exploration and puzzle solving. Just as an example of an echo kind of being like a dungeon item is that in the Soothorn Ruins, you'll be utilizing the Strantula to get to out of reach areas. There's also plenty of incentive to explore the overworld in preparation for dungeons. Before entering Jabul Ruins, I decided to check out Zora Cove, where I came across the Chompfin, which proved to be an incredibly helpful echo during my playthrough in the ruins. I just want to note that the Jabul Ruins might be my new favorite water temple, but maybe right behind the Ancient Cistern. Even when in these dungeons, you'll discover echoes that become very useful when traversing the overworld or rifts. The water block, which I found in the Jabul Ruins, would later become one of my primary tools for traversal. So although Echoes of Wisdom offers you that freedom from the original Zelda and the newest installments, it still has gated progression in the form of echoes. To me, it felt like Nintendo was trying to please both the old and the new audience to the series, series, and I would say they accomplish this with the overarching structure of the game. It provides plenty of freedom while offering the unique dungeon themes and bosses, which must be tackled in a semi-linear manner. Additionally, Echoes of Wisdom also addresses key critiques of Tears of the Kingdom, which includes the abundant variety of enemies and having actual distinct caves or side missions. Specifically, I'm referring to areas like the Eastern Temple. The rifts, at least in my opinion, never felt repetitive considering they utilized the environment from the surrounding area, as to where the shrines did not. I have my own gripes with Echoes of Wisdom, primarily just because I prefer a more combative approach to the gameplay. Now, I could be completely incorrect here, but I do believe this was sort of an experimental test of what is to come, and that's simply mixing the best of the old ways with the new. I understand that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom were the titles that Miyamoto always wanted to create, but Echoes of Wisdom seems to be a slight step back in the other direction, which I'm obviously not complaining about. I tend to be optimistic with my videos, so I do hope but also think that the new direction for the series will consist of having that freedom, although limited, along with traditional dungeons. I initially intended for this video to be a lot longer, but I imagine it'll only be around 6, maybe 8 minutes once I'm done editing. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments on Echoes of Wisdom. Did you love it, hate it, or maybe somewhere in between? In what direction are you hoping the Zelda franchise goes from here? So, until next time.